Welcome. I'm the Deadwood Jedi. This is another Raid Shadow Legends video, and I have a little bit of a different video from what I typically put out there. This is going to be a clan boss video, but we're going to be talking about an old comp that I've covered a long time ago, but it is probably the most popular composition that's out there. It's definitely my most viewed video that I have done over the year. And we're going to be talking about the Budget Unkillable team. It's a Maneater, Painkeeper, Budget Unkillable team that's good for all three different difficulties: Ultra Nightmare, Nightmare, and Brutal. It's an incredibly good composition. It's very stable, it works for all affinities, and it's very accessible to people because all you need is a Maneater and a Painkeeper. Now, I know there's many of you out there that are like, oh, another Maneater video. I get it, man. Totally cool. If you don't want to watch this one, not a problem. I'll have more different stuff coming out in the future. If you guys are like, I'm well beyond this, I get it too. You don't necessarily need to watch this. But this composition is very difficult to make happen. And so I wanted to go over some of the requirements that are needed, some of the best practices that you want to do, and do a couple of those things to make it a little bit easier for those of you that are struggling with it to do a little bit better. Every week I have people going, this doesn't work, this is going wrong, it's not working on Ultra Nightmare, it's working on Nightmare, or not working on Nightmare and working on Ultra Nightmare. There's a lot of nuances to making this comp work. So I wanted to go over some of that and try to do it as briefly as possible. There's no way around it. This is going to be one of those longer videos because there's just a lot of explanation I need to do, and I want to make sure that I'm clear about it to help people out as much as possible. Now, I will have a link down below for a Game On video where we're going to be highlighting some of the best affinity champions that are good for taking the stun. So we call those champions the slow boy because it just goes so slow. They're slow boy champions or stun targets, whichever. But I'm gonna have a little video highlighting 5 of my favorite when you're using affinity champions. So non-void, non-legendary affinity champions that are great for taking that stun. So you definitely want to check that out. But let's go ahead. Let's really quickly, I'm going to show the champions very briefly, and then I'm going to talk about the requirements and stuff that we need to run this composition. So obviously the first champion we need to talk about is Maneater. He makes the entire composition work, and it's most primarily due to this A3 ability, Ancient Blood. Yes, you need the skill booked. Yes, this is the only skill you need booked, but you do need it booked. You don't need him ascended, you don't even need him leveled, although that makes it a lot easier to run this composition and keep him alive. A lot of this is based off of HP and defense, so the higher level they are, the easier it is to make this kind of stuff happen. Now, the way I have mine set up, I have him at 240 speed. The requirements for this team is 240 or 241 speed. You can see I have over 2,000 defense, 36,000 HP. Now, the key with Maneater is going to be like every other champion we're going to bring in here, except for our slow boy. The idea is you want as high a defense as you can get, while maintaining an HP level lower than our other champion we're going to bring in, and that is going to be Painkeeper. Painkeeper obviously is the other really important one to make this happen. That Ancient Blood skill of Maneater is a 5-turn cooldown. Painkeeper, with her ability to reduce the cooldown of all champions by 1 turn, makes it into a 4-turn cooldown, allowing us to really tune with him. Crucial champion. Painkeeper has a bunch of stuff on her skills, and most of them need to be booked. This A3, Combat Tactics, that's the one that reduces the cooldown of her allies. That has to be booked. We have Spectacular Sweep. This one heals all allies. That has to be booked. And then her A1 fills her turn meter by 10% every time it's used. Doesn't have to be booked, but you need to understand how that works. Every time that Painkeeper takes an attack with this skill, it's going to boost your turn meter. So if we're not using that skill at the right time, it can throw the composition off. That's why you have to be careful with counterattack champions, you have to be careful with ally attack champions, and you even have to be careful with masteries as well. So we'll go over that in a little bit here. Now, as far as how she's kitted out, she's at 220 speed. She has 1,700 defense and 38,000 health. This is more health than Maneater. And you'll notice the defense is actually pretty low. Well, one of the ways I combated that is I do have her in lifesteal gear, and I'll kind of go over why that can be important later on. Now, the other champions we're bringing, as I said, we do have a slow boy, and that is going to be Rowan. Now, this is the only champion that's going to have more HP than Painkeeper, and it's essential that she has more HP than Painkeeper so she takes a stun. Now, she's going to have 39,000. It's just a little bit more than Painkeeper. Doesn't need to be a ton more. but it does need to be more. So 39,000 HP, 1400 defense. We want her to have the lowest defense so that she loses her HP as fast as possible, so it's more likely she'll take the stun. That's really the reason why. It's for those early turns to ensure her HP is low enough so that she takes the stun over anybody else on the team. Now, the other champions we're going to be bringing in at 113 speed, I should say, that's an Ultra Nightmare or a Brutal Run speed. We're just going to show her on Ultra Nightmare. I don't feel like we really need to show the setup for every run. I have videos that do that. But I just want to talk about how best to run this composition. The other champions I'm going to bring in is Suwai Firstborn. We do have her going at 176 speed. You'll notice the defense is low, but the HP is low as well. That means when she heals up, it's going to do a better job of healing her. You'll notice there are no speed sets, there are no perception sets, so we don't have to worry about any of that. And then the last champion I'm going to bring in is one of the newer champions just because I have them. We're going to bring in Jintoro. Jintoro is also at 176 speed. Now Jintoro does have a perception set, actually has 2 perception sets on, but so that is something that we will want to account for in the calculator when we're figuring this out, but it won't affect the speed too adversely in any way. Now, those are the speeds we have. So let's look at the calculator so we understand exactly what's going on with this composition so we can better tune it. Here we are at my website. All right, I've zoomed in quite a bit. This is the front page of the website. Up here, you have all sorts of different tools for you. So anything you guys want to check out. If you have questions about the calculator, go to the help section. That's going to be your best friend there. You can go under guides and resources where we have a variety of guides and resources from the community. It's not just my stuff. A lot of it's not. The stun calculator right here, you will want to check out. We have a couple of different guides on the budget unkillable that can help you better understand it. But what we want to go to is speed tunes here to find the comp. So you can just click on Deadwood Jedi recommended tunes. Great place to start. I do have tunes kind of split up based off of the speeds you're using or champions you want to use, but the recommended tunes will have the budget Maneater Unkillable because it's so common. I had to recommend it. So if we just scroll down, here we go. New budget Maneater, 3 bosses, only 1 comp. That's the tune that we're going to be doing today. That's one we're talking about. So we click on that and it opens up and you can see all the speeds right there. It has the breakdown of the speeds of the champions, who's going where, the rotations you're using, and even as you go further down, you have some notes about HP, defense, all that stuff, making sure that you can tune this perfectly. Over here on the side, between the videos that we have for this build, you can see these links right here. Each of these will take you, when I click on that, it's going to take you directly to the calculator with everything already plugged in. So you can exactly see, hey, these are the speeds we need. This is how it breaks down. Makes it very, very easy to adjust to. Now, all we have to do then when we're doing our team is make small adjustments. So our Maneater is going at 240 speed. However, our Maneater has 3 speed sets. And let me zoom in a little bit here so it's a little bit easier to see. So right above my head, we'll look at this. So I need to adjust. So I need to put in speed sets. So I'm going to click there. Here come the sets. We have 3 speed sets all the way down at the bottom. Boom, click that. And you can see the true speed changed just ever so slightly. Speed sets give you fractional numbers. The game rounds it up or down to display it to us as the total speed. So the calculator will figure out the true speed for it. And those numbers can throw things off, especially if you're on the edges of where you want to be. Our Painkeeper has 1 speed set. Neither of them have Lore of Steel, so we don't have to worry about clicking that. If you do have Lore of Steel, you just click this tab here, and you can see it does change the true speed there. If a champion's unascended, you can change, or not leveled, you can change the base speed to adjust for that as well. And that's pretty much it. This is going to be Jintoro right here, the rosin spot. So we can just click on that, type that in. I don't have Jintoro in the calculator just yet, but he should be coming shortly. Now Jintoro has a base speed of 102, so I can just go in here, change that to 102. He also is using 2 perception sets we talked about, and you can see his speed changes ever so slightly, but it's still fine. We have Suwai, and Suwai is perfect, and then our slow boy is Rowan at 113 speed. Now the only thing we want to do is we might want to mess with the delays. So right now it's set up perfectly, right? No delay on Maneater, and we're going to use the Unkillable right here before the AoEs. Now, you can see it's green. That means the buffs are going up. When it's green, the buffs go on. So everybody's unkillable for that first AoE. Over here, you can see that's all solid blue. That means they start the turn with the buffs, and they're going to end the turn with the buffs, which means they'll have it on for AoE 2. We're still unkillable. And then for the stun, you'll notice the buffs are faded blue. That means they are falling off right now. And so what that means is they start their turn with those buffs, but they do not end their turn with those buffs. And so you can see that that's how it goes. Now, you'll also notice Rowan takes 1-2 turns and doesn't take a turn here. This is how she can maintain her unkillable ability. By not taking a turn, those buffs are going to stay on her for the stun. And so that's what we want to do, is we want to make sure after the unkillable goes up, she only takes 1 turn. That'll keep her unkillable for all of it. As long as we can guide the stun to her, we are in good shape. Now, we can always change the delays. You can see up here where we have delay. We can take that up or down, and as we do that, it will change when those skills are used. So like Painkeeper, we have a 2-turn delay. What that means is, if there's no delay, they'll use the skill first. Now, she prioritizes this A3. I should roll this up. She prioritizes the A3 skill, so that's going to go first. Second attack is going to be the A2 because we have no delay. 1-turn delay means the first turn, she won't use that skill. Well, she's using the A3 anyway, so we see no change. If we do a 2-turn delay, that means the first turn, she's not going to use that skill. The second turn, she's not going to use that skill. See the A1 there. And then the third turn, she will use that skill right there. Perfectly in sync. There you go. And that's how it goes all the way through. Now, one of the things we have to make sure is that we heal back up before the stun. Hence the A2 there right before the stun. That's very, very important. Our stun champion is taking all this damage, but you have to have at least 15% HP in order, or I think 16% really, in order for the clan boss to target you if you have an unkillable buff on. Otherwise, the clan boss does recognize that you're unkillable. So that heal coming at that point before the stun is crucial. And that's pretty much how we plug this in. So we can even change this difficulty to Nightmare since the speeds are the same, except for our slow boy. When we go on Nightmare, the slow boy has to have a speed of 121. That's crucial, right? So when we do that, then we have to make some slight adjustments, right? So you can see here, just by adding 1-turn delay, we get everything in sync. Painkeeper takes a double turn before the stun. Our slow boy is only taking 1 attack after Maneater puts up the unkillable. Oh, wait. Maneater's not going at the right time. Well, let's increase that delay 1 turn. Now the unkillable goes up right before the AoEs, covers us for both AoEs, and like I said, the stun target's only taking 1 attack after that. And you can see, even Painkeeper's A2 is being used before the stun, so we make sure that we heal up. This is how simple it is. If we want to go to Brutal, we have to change our speed back, of course. So 113, it's right within the range, right? And then we just have to adjust the cooldowns of everything to make sure that it works. I don't remember offhand what those cooldowns are, but that's basically all we have to do. I think this is it. Yep, here we go. Because it's a slower speed, it syncs a little bit later, but you can see here we're taking 1 attack after the stun, or after the AoE, and we'll have to have an extra delay, looks like, on Maneater right there. Pretty easy. So we can even start off at 0, right? So we take 1 extra, we have that delay there. So Maneater places the unkillable now. And then Rowan takes 1 turn after the unkillable goes up. Painkeeper uses the A2, the heal ability right there before the stun, so that our stun target can be targeted. Done. So that's how we use this in the clan boss. Now, the next thing I want to talk about really quickly is the stun targeting. This is really, really difficult to get, and probably the hardest part of this composition. So here we are looking at Rust Stun Calculator. Now, you can see this number right here. These are on the edge. This is the percentage HP that these champions have when they start with 0 health, when they get knocked down to 0, and they're relying on Painkeeper to heal them. If that's all the healing they get, this is the percentage HP they will have. You can see Rowan is the lowest, so she should be the stun target every single time because she has the lowest percentage HP when they start at 0. However, they don't start at 0, and so getting to that point can be tricky because we can't have the stun hit Maneater and we can't have it hit Painkeeper. If it does that, the whole thing gets knocked out of whack. So in order to do that, that's where we need that higher defense, because that's going to mitigate more damage. So that means the total damage that Maneater and Painkeeper take initially becomes lower. Now, it's really hard because Maneater actually hurts himself when he uses that unkillable ability of his. He takes like 20% damage right off the top. So we have to kind of balance that out. One of the ways to do that is to lower the total HP on our Maneater. So the heal from Painkeeper is even bigger. The best way to do it, however, is just build their defense up a lot higher. Over here on the stun targeted side, this guesstimates who's going to take the stun in the initial rounds. However, there's lots of things that can throw that off. A crit can throw that off. A weak hit can throw that off. Affinity can obviously throw that off based off of weak hits or strong hits, right? Got to remember Maneater's going to be taking extra damage too initially. So there are more than a couple things that can throw this off. That's why Rowan needs the most HP but the lowest defense, and generally actually having all these numbers be considerably lower is a good thing. So if we lowered these things to if we lowered Rowan to say 35,000 HP and lowered Painkeeper to 34,000 HP and Maneater to say 30,000 HP, it becomes a lot easier to see that the HP percentage difference is bigger here. It becomes a lot easier to have that difference made up so that the heal from Painkeeper is a lot stronger. Maneater is less likely to take the stun. We heal up from other things like Life Drinker or Lifesteal Gear or even Immortal Gear. All that stuff has a bigger impact on us. The heals from Painkeeper are much larger because Painkeeper's heals based off Painkeeper's HP. So it's a static number. That's why if Rowan has higher HP, she's actually getting a lower percentage of health brought back compared to everybody else. So that kind of explains that. Hopefully that's pretty easy for you guys to get. Now let's go look at the champions because we need to talk about the masteries. Okay, the masteries are one of the most important parts of this, guys. So when we're talking about masteries, there's some masteries we just have to avoid because they change turn meter or they change skill order. So the ones we have to avoid that involve turn meter are Rapid Response, Arcane Celerity, and Cycle of Revenge. You cannot have any of those masteries. They will provide random turn meter boosts on your champions and will throw the comp completely off. There's two other masteries you want to be very careful of. One of them is Cycle of Magic. This is a skill. You cannot have this mastery on Maneater. You cannot have this mastery on Painkeeper. It's really important that we don't do that because we need those skills to happen at a particular time, and if they randomly get a cooldown, it will throw that off. The other one we want to be careful of, not with those two, but actually with other champions, especially those that might bring an increased defense or counterattack buff, is Lasting Gifts. If one of those buffs, something that the clan boss doesn't want to target, is on our stun champion, obviously they won't take the stun and it'll throw things off. So the clan boss likes to avoid increased defense, counterattack, and reflect damage. If any of those are on our stun champion, it's going to cause us big problems. So we got to be careful of that. The other thing that we want to be careful of is, and it's a totally fine skill to bring, Lore of Steel. This is a great mastery to have on your champions. Just got to make sure that you click that toggle in the calculator so that it accounts for it. That's all you got to do, but it's only going to add speed. It's a good mastery to take. Other than that, we're always going to be taking offense, defense. I mean, we're always going to be taking these offensive masteries. We're always be coming down either to Giant Slayer or War Master just so we can do more damage. That's pretty typical. One thing I will recommend, there's two ways you want to do this. Either the support tree, and this is usually for earlier builds, lower level accounts that have a hard time getting accuracy or landing debuffs. This is a really good way to go, right? Just like I have with Rowan here. You generally want to come to Master Hexer so your debuffs last longer. And maybe Sniper as well, depending on if you need percentage help to land debuffs. The other way to go is down the defensive tree, and you want to come down here to Retribution. Basically, if you take 25% damage, you have a chance to counterattack every other turn. That's a great way to increase your damage without actually having a counterattack champion on your team. If you do that, you also want to take Rejuvenation. This will help your healing and help avoid being targeted by the stun. Now, for your slow boy, really crucial, you don't want to take this, and you don't want to take Life Drinker. We want them to only heal from Painkeeper, not from anything else. So avoiding healing masteries is really important. All your other champions, Painkeeper, Maneater, your 2 DPS champions, you want them having Life Drinker. That's going to be really, really important. Now, as far as masteries go on Painkeeper, she's the only one that really kind of needs to be special. I highly recommend taking this approach with the support tree. This is just going to make her heals even bigger, which is only going to exacerbate the HP difference between your slow boy and the rest of your champions. That's a good thing. So I do recommend going down here, taking Steadfast. Also will help avoid taking stuns. Lay on Hands, Healing Savior. Taking those 3 pretty much will be really, really good for you. And if you're going to do that, you might as well just keep going down. But that's definitely advantageous. And, you know, just be smart. Take Grim Resolve. Get a little bit more damage since you're all going to be low HP. And that's the masteries that these champions need to be at. So that really covers everything. Now, Painkeeper, as you can see, is support and offense. I have Jintoro, I believe, in offense and defensive tree. I have Suwai in support tree as well. We saw Rowan here. She is in support tree as well. And Suwai is also in the support tree. And then we have Maneater, and our Maneater, it doesn't really matter which one, is in the offense and defensive tree. This is the team we're using, just like I described. I'm putting our stun champion in the lead to help guide the stun to them. It just makes things a lot easier on the setup. And we're going against Blue Affinity Clan Boss. Everybody is neutral affinity on this. It's real important just not to have anybody weak affinity in there that isn't your stun champion. And that's one of the beauty of using Void champions. If we could use all Voids, that would be the ideal choice for this. So here we go. We're going to start off with the Unkillable from Maneater. It's very easy to set up on Ultra Nightmare. Then we cool it down with Combat Tactics from Painkeeper. And then we're going to go ahead and just use the champion's skills. I'm just going to go ahead and use this skill right here for now. We can use a 3 there. Here goes Maneater. And then Rowan, we can go ahead and put the poisons up. That's why I love Rowan. She's very, very good. And then with Painkeeper, we're just going to use the A1. If you remember, there's a 2-turn delay. So that's 1 turn. And now pay attention. Look at the HP levels of everybody. Everybody's pretty low right now. It's very possible that the stun won't go to Rowan. Except I have crit rate on everybody. I have Life Drinker on everybody. And so because of that, we're going to heal up as he hits hard, as Maneater hits hard, as Suwai is going to hit hard. And because of that, because of the Life Drinker, because I have good crit rate and damage on them, they heal up. They're over Rowan. Even if they weren't, like you can see right now, Jintoro and Rowan have almost the same HP level. Same thing with Maneater. But this is where we're going to go ahead and use Painkeeper's A2. And this is going to heal everybody. Look at the difference in the healing. Rowan has the most HP. She's going to heal the least out of everybody else. There's that heal. You can see she healed up the least and she got the stun as a result. Maneater had more HP. Jintoro had more HP. That's how you make it work. At this point, we just got through it. I can literally click auto now and it's going to go and we'll go a full 50 turns. Rowan's going to take the stun every single time. We will be unkillable. We will have block damage up. It's going to be, or a block debuffs up. It's going to be great. Affinity friendly. Now, there is one thing. If we are going against Spirit Affinity, you know we use Painkeeper's A2 there. We would basically have to take that first stun because what we'd want to do is not use Painkeeper's A2 until this next attack of hers right here. So what we would do is we would use Painkeeper's A1 instead of the A2 and continue to use it. So when her A3 comes up, we'll use it. Otherwise, we're just going to use her A1. And then right here at this point, this is where we'd use her A2. She's the only champion that's susceptible to the slow debuff from Green Affinity on that first cycle through. And so if she takes it, that's how we adjust. We just don't use that first A2. We delay that basically, I think 6 or 7 turns until right here in the second A2. And that's when we'd use it and we'll be back in sync. I don't know why it works that way. It's amazing that it does, but it does, and that's cool. But you can see, at this point, Rowan's always going to have the lowest percentage HP. She will always take the stun based off of that heal from Painkeeper because she has the most HP on the team. And we were able to get so low because we had such low defense to start with. And that's the thing, right? Having a low defense means you get to that point a lot faster. If we have more defense on our Jintoro, on our Suwai, on our Maneater, their health will be higher before that stun comes around, before those off of that first cycle. So it'll be even more apparent who should take the stun in those situations. Something I definitely recommend. But, I have a little bit more experience with this, so I can push those numbers a little bit more to the edge. But yeah, this is a team. There we go. 25 million damage, 3-key team. Like I said, we didn't have a full debuff bar at all for that fight either. Poisons can do a lot of work for you. And, this is not, a top-end built team. But that's not bad. 25 million, it's not crazy hard to get there. It's not for everybody, obviously. This is a budget Maneater team, right? This is a budget Unkillable team. This team is not supposed to get you to a 2-key level. It's just supposed to help you get basically out of Nightmare is kind of the design and into Ultra Nightmare. So 3-key is an excellent result for this type of team. There's a couple quick little points I want to make. One, if you're having a real hard time with the stun targeting, use an Immortal set on the champions that are getting stunned that you don't want to be stunned. Helps a ton. Or, better yet, use Lifesteal gear. It works great. I had Lifesteal on my Painkeeper in this team, for example. Never was low on health. Wasn't ever an issue, and it makes it go way smoother. I don't have to worry as much about defense because she's healing up the whole time. An Immortal set can help do that same thing. It's really good on your Maneater. Because they lose that HP when they cast that Unkillable buff, it can make them artificially low, especially for the first stun. A good way to avoid that, give them an Immortal set. It's a great way to help train where the stun's going to be going by giving him just that little bit extra HP that he wouldn't have otherwise. That's the budget Maneater Unkillable, guys. It's one of the best compositions out there. It's accessible to pretty much every level. You don't need any legendaries to make it happen. The difficulty is just getting a Maneater. It's not for everybody, but if you have one, this is definitely a composition you should pay attention to and take a look at. Using. It can be really, really effective, especially at early levels. It only scales as you go up too, so it's a really good build to get. Now, obviously, if there's issues, like I said, I get questions on this composition all the time. If you're having issues, you need to know what the issues are. Are you getting stunned at the wrong time? Or is the tune out of sync? These are two different issues that you have to resolve. If you're getting stunned, if the wrong champion's getting the stun, you need to look again at Rust Calculator, right? You need to look at those HP levels. You need to pay attention when they're getting stunned, do they have less HP? Why do they have less HP? Are you getting the heal from Painkeeper? Is your other champion getting their heals from Life Drinker, from Lifesteal, from Immortal Gear? Because those are cheap and easy ways to fix it. Put Lifesteal on that champion, put Immortal Gear on that champion. All of a sudden, they're going to have more HP and be less likely to get stunned. Maybe you have to build up their defense to prevent them from taking as much damage early on. Maybe you have to lower their HP so that the heal from Painkeeper is even bigger than it would be otherwise. These are all possibilities. And remember, Lifesteal heals you, and Life Drinker too. They both heal you based off the damage you do, not on the amount of HP you have. So the less HP you have, the bigger those heals actually are for you. So those are considerations and things that you might want to, you'll need to know and look at. Now, if it works in the calculator speed tune wise, but when you're actually running it, it doesn't, then that tells me there's something else wrong. And it's only really one of three things. Either you're using the wrong skills or you have the wrong champions in there. And what I mean by that is a Valkyrie who has a turn meter boost as a passive ability, or like a Juliana who has a turn meter boost on one of her skills. Those are champions you can't use for this team. Or you're using the skills in the wrong order, like Painkeeper, right? If you're not using her A1 at the appropriate times, that turn meter boost can throw things off. The other possibility is that you have the wrong speeds input in the calculator. Like you didn't take account that perception set, or you forgot you have Laura Steele on this champion. Those are things that can definitely throw it off because the numbers are so tight. If you're off just a little bit at the wrong spot, it could potentially throw off the entire tune. And then the very last thing, and this is the most common one, is you have bad masteries. We went over the masteries that you can't have on your champions, and if you have those on, that might be the reason. In fact, it's probably the reason why it's not working for you. Especially if it's failing at different times. So like if one time it fails at turn 17, the other time it's turn 12, another time it's turn 22, chances are it's a mastery that's proccing at the wrong time and throwing things off. But yeah, if you have any more questions, if you're still struggling after all of this and you can't figure it out, my best advice is come by my Discord, ask questions in there, politely of course, and with lots of patience. Eventually someone will be able to answer your question. Or you can do like these wonderful people and sign up for my Patreon, sign up for a coaching session where I can walk you through and we can go over your comp together and I can explain anything that you don't understand. That's a wonderful option and actually get a lot of benefit out of that. You can always sign up for a takeover. I'm happy to do that as well. But those are wonderful options for you as far as like trying to understand and better do these compositions. But that's all we have for today. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Check out that Game On link for the best stun champions that are affinity based, right? So red, green, or blue. It's a pretty cool little list, I think. Definitely want to check that out. I do have some options for voids that I've done previous videos on as well. And I think that covers everything, guys. Been a pleasure. Hopefully this was helpful for you. I wish you all the luck in your next clan boss run. Till next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.